Hello everyone, welcome back to American Pulse and Paranormal. Before we begin, make sure to put on your headphones for the best experience. Tonight, I have a chilling story for you about our recent camping trip in the deep woods. Let's dive into it. It was a summer evening when my wife, Sarah, Jack, and I decided to embark on a camping trip. The deep woods had always held a special place in our hearts, and we were eager to experience its mysteries firsthand. We arrived at the edge of the deep woods just before sunset. The air was heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. After setting up our tents in a small clearing, we gathered some firewood and lit a campfire. As the flames danced and crackled, we couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. The shadows cast by the trees seemed to move of their own accord, creating an unsettling atmosphere. Sarah whispered, "Do you guys feel that? It's like someone's watching us." Jack chuckled nervously. "Maybe it's just your imagination, Sarah. But yeah, this place does give me the creeps." As the night deepened, the temperature dropped, and the fire became our sole source of warmth and light. We sat by the fire, sipping on cups of instant coffee, and began to recount the stories we'd heard about the swamp dweller, a mysterious figure said to haunt these woods. "Did you hear about the swamp dweller?" I began. "They say it's a spectral being that emerges from the darkness, preying on unsuspecting travelers." My wife shivered. "Stop it, you're giving me goosebumps." Suddenly, we heard a rustling noise behind us. We turned quickly, our hearts racing, but there was nothing there. We shrugged it off, convincing ourselves it was just the wind. "Probably just an animal," Jack said, trying to sound brave. To calm our nerves, we decided to explore the nearby area. We grabbed our flashlights and ventured into the woods, the beams of light cutting through the thick darkness. The deeper we went, the more oppressive the darkness became. The trees loomed over us like silent sentinels, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. We stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin. The wooden structure was partially collapsed, and the windows were shattered. "Wow, look at this place," Sarah said, her voice trembling slightly. "It's so eerie." Intrigued, we approached the cabin and peered inside. The interior was dimly lit by the moonlight filtering through the broken windows. The walls were covered in mold, and the floor was littered with debris. As we stepped inside, the air grew colder, and we felt an inexplicable sense of dread. "Let's not stay here too long," my wife suggested, her voice shaky. I turned to leave, but something caught my eye, a dusty journal lying on a rickety table. I picked up the journal and flipped through its pages. The handwriting was barely legible, but the entries told a chilling tale of a previous camper who had encountered the swamp dweller. "Listen to this," I said, reading aloud. "They saw strange lights in the woods and heard whispering voices that seemed to come from nowhere." The final entry ends with, "If you're reading this, it's already too late." A sudden gust of wind blew through the cabin, slamming the door shut behind us. We jumped, dropping the journal. The temperature plummeted further, and we could see our breaths in the air. "What's happening?" Sarah cried, panic in her voice. Panic set in as we fumbled for the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. The room seemed to close in on us, the shadows growing darker and more menacing. Then we saw it, a figure standing in the corner of the room. It was shrouded in darkness, its features indistinguishable. Our flashlights flickered, and the figure moved closer. We could hear the sound of its breath, raspy and uneven. "Oh my God, what is that?" Jack whispered, his voice trembling. Paralyzed with fear, we watched as it reached out towards us. Just as the figure was about to touch us, the door burst open, and a blinding light filled the room. We shielded our eyes, and when we looked again, the figure was gone. "We need to get out of here," I shouted. We stumbled out of the cabin, our hearts pounding in our chests. We ran back to our campsite, our minds racing with questions. Had we just encountered the swamp dweller? My wife asked, her voice filled with dread. Or was it something else entirely? We can't be sure, but one thing's for certain, I replied. We will never forget this night. We sat around the fire again, trying to catch our breath. I looked at the journal once more and said, we need to find out more about this place. We can't leave without trying to understand what happened here. Are you crazy? My wife responded. That place is cursed. We need to get out of here. Jack, trying to calm Sarah down, said, I don't think there's anything that can harm us. Maybe it was just our imaginations, but if there's something real, we need to find out. I'm with Jack, Sarah said slowly, but we need to be cautious. We decided to rest for the night and return to the cabin in broad daylight. After a restless night filled with nightmares, we awoke with the first rays of sunlight filtering through the trees, casting long shadows on the ground. Are you guys ready? I asked, holding the journal with me. Let's go, but carefully, my wife said. We started our journey back to the cabin. The forest seemed less threatening in daylight, but the feeling of dread never left us. The closer we got to the cabin, the colder the air became, and the feeling of fear intensified. We reached the cabin again, and the surrounding trees seemed to be watching us. We entered cautiously, and I took the journal and began reading again. Do you see these markings? I asked, pointing to the symbols in the journal. I think they point to something. Maybe it's a map, Jack said. I began to examine the pages more closely and found a folded paper between the pages. I opened it and discovered a map showing a path leading deeper into the woods, marked with various symbols and notes. One particular note caught my attention. The source of the darkness. It looks like we found something important, I said. Are we going? My wife asked, a clear worry on her face. Yes, we need to know the truth, Jack replied firmly. We began our journey towards a new destination, determined to uncover the secrets of the woods. The journey was filled with obstacles, as dense underbrush and treacherous terrain made things difficult. But our curiosity kept us going. The deeper we went, the quieter the woods became. It was as if the very air around us was holding its breath. Eventually, we arrived at a clearing with a small, murky pond at its center. The water was dark and still, reflecting the overcast sky above. This place gives me the creeps, Sarah said, hugging herself. Do we really have to go near the pond? As we approached the pond, we felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The air grew colder, and the sound of whispering voices filled our ears. Do you hear that? My wife asked, her eyes wide with fear. Yeah, it sounds like they're calling our names, Jack replied, looking around nervously. Panicking, we turned to leave, but our feet wouldn't move. It was as if an invisible force was holding us in place. The whispers grew deafening, and the surface of the pond began to ripple. Slowly, a figure emerged from the water, a spectral being with hollow eyes and a twisted smile. The swamp dweller, I whispered, my voice trembling. We watched in horror as it moved towards us, its movements slow and deliberate. Our minds raced, searching for a way to escape. The journal had mentioned something about confronting the darkness, but in our fear, we couldn't remember the details. What do? Sarah cried, tears streaming down her face. Face your fear, Jack said, his voice steady. We need to stand our ground. Summoning every ounce of courage, we forced ourselves to stand still. We met the swamp dweller's gaze, refusing to look away. To our astonishment, the figure hesitated. Its hollow eyes seemed to bore into our souls, but we stood firm. The air around us grew warmer, and the whispers began to fade. The swamp dweller let out a guttural growl and slowly retreated back into the pond, disappearing beneath the surface. Is it gone? My wife asked, her voice barely a whisper. Yeah, I think so, I replied, my heart still pounding. Let's get out of here. As soon as it was gone, the invisible force holding us in place released its grip. We stumbled backward, gasping for breath. The clearing was silent once more, and the sense of dread had lifted. We looked down at the journal, realizing that the previous camper must have faced a similar encounter and left the map as a guide for others. With a renewed sense of purpose, we made our way back to our campsite. The experience had left us shaken, but also enlightened. We had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. The deep woods held many secrets, and we knew there were countless other stories. "Is it gone?" my wife asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yeah, I think so," I replied, my heart still pounding. "Let's get out of here." As soon as it was gone, the invisible force holding us in place released its grip. We stumbled backward, gasping for breath. The clearing was silent once more, and the sense of dread had lifted. We looked down at the journal, realizing that the previous camper must have faced a similar encounter and left the map as a guide for others. With a renewed sense of purpose, we made our way back to our campsite. The experience had left us shaken, but also enlightened. We had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. The deep woods held many secrets, and we knew there were countless other stories waiting to be uncovered. From that day forward, we dedicated ourselves to exploring the unknown and sharing our experiences with others. We became the storytellers, the keepers of the woods' mysteries. Each new trip into the forest brought with it a sense of adventure and discovery. We documented everything, from the smallest strange occurrence to the most terrifying encounter. The swamp dweller became a legend among our friends and family, a tale to be told around campfires and at gatherings. People came to us with their own stories and experiences, each one adding to the rich tapestry of lore surrounding the deep woods. As the seasons changed and years passed, our small group of adventurers grew. We hosted expeditions, guided by the maps and notes left by those who came before us. The deep woods, once a place of fear, became a source of fascination and wonder. We learned to respect its dangers and embrace its mysteries. One autumn evening, as we sat around a campfire with a new group of explorers, I reflected on how much had changed since that first fateful trip. The fear that once gripped us had transformed into a deeper understanding of the unknown. "We've come a long way," I said, staring into the flames. "The deep woods will always be a place of mystery, but now we know we're not alone." "Yeah," Jack agreed, raising his cup. "To the adventures we've had and the ones still to come." Everyone joined in the toast, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of the fire. The night was filled with laughter, stories, and the comforting sense of belonging to a community united by a shared passion for the unexplained. Days turned into weeks as our exploration continued. Each discovery led to more questions than answers. We encountered more eerie phenomena, strange lights dancing in the treetops, ghostly whispers that seemed to come from nowhere, and unexplained cold spots that sent shivers down our spines. In our quest for understanding, we stumbled upon an old, hidden library within the depths of the forest. The library was filled with ancient texts and manuscripts that chronicled the history of the woods and its supernatural occurrences. We spent hours poring over the texts, piecing together the stories of those who had come before us. One particularly chilling account detailed a group of settlers who had disappeared without a trace. Their disappearance was attributed to a curse placed upon the land by a vengeful spirit. The settlers had unknowingly disturbed an ancient burial ground, and the spirit had exacted its revenge by claiming their lives. "This explains a lot," Sarah said, her voice filled with awe. "It seems like this place has been haunted for centuries." Jack nodded, flipping through another dusty manuscript. "There's so much history here. I wonder how many others have had experiences like ours." As we continued to read, we found references to various rituals and symbols meant to protect against the malevolent forces in the woods. These rituals were performed by the original inhabitants of the land, who had a deep understanding of the supernatural energies at play. "We should try one of these rituals," Jack suggested. "It might help us understand what's happening." Reluctantly, we agreed to try one of the protective rituals detailed in the manuscripts. We gathered the necessary materials: herbs, stones, and an ancient chant written in a language we didn't understand. Following the instructions carefully, we performed the ritual at sunset, hoping it would provide some form of protection. As we chanted the ancient words, the air around us seemed to change. The atmosphere grew heavy, and a sense of calm washed over us. It was as if the forest itself was acknowledging our efforts. "Did it work?" Sarah asked, looking around. "I think so," I replied, feeling a newfound sense of peace. "Maybe this will help keep the negative energies at bay." The following days were marked by a noticeable shift in the woods. The eerie phenomena seemed to lessen, and we felt more at ease during our explorations. We continued to document our findings, each new discovery adding to our growing understanding of the deep woods' mysterious past. One night, while sitting around the campfire, Jack shared an idea that had been forming in his mind. What if we create a guidebook for future explorers? Something that details everything we've learned and experienced. It could help others navigate the woods safely. "That's a great idea," I agreed. "We can compile all our notes, maps, and stories into one comprehensive guide." Excited by the prospect, we set to work on the guidebook. We meticulously organized our notes, created detailed maps, and wrote down every story and encounter we had experienced. The process was both cathartic and empowering, as we realized the depth of our knowledge and the impact it could have on others. As the guidebook neared completion, we decided to test its effectiveness by inviting a new group of explorers to the woods. Armed with our guidebook, they navigated the forest with confidence, successfully avoiding the dangers that had once plagued us. "This is incredible," one of the new explorers said, holding up the guidebook. "It's like having a roadmap to the unknown." Our guidebook quickly gained a reputation among adventurers and paranormal enthusiasts. People from all over came to us, eager to explore the deep woods with the aid of our comprehensive guide. It became a symbol of our journey and the collective effort to unravel the mysteries of the forest. One day, as we ventured deeper into the woods than ever before, we stumbled upon a hidden cave. The entrance was concealed by thick vines and underbrush, but a faint glow emanated from within. Intrigued, we decided to explore. Inside the cave, the air was cool and damp. The walls were covered in ancient carvings and symbols that seemed to tell a story. At the far end of the cave, we found a small chamber illuminated by a strange, ethereal light. In the center of the chamber stood an altar, upon which rested an old, ornate box. Cautiously, we approached the altar and examined the box. It was intricately decorated with symbols matching those we had seen throughout the woods. With great care, we opened the box and found a collection of old scrolls and artifacts. "This must be some kind of treasure trove," Jack said, marveling at the contents. "These scrolls could hold the answers we've been searching for." We carefully took the scrolls and artifacts back to our campsite, eager to study them further. As we unraveled the scrolls, we discovered they contained detailed accounts of ancient rituals, legends, and the history of the land. One scroll in particular stood out. It told the story of a powerful guardian spirit that watched over the forest, protecting it from those who would do it harm. "The guardian spirit," I murmured. "Maybe that's what we've been encountering all along. Not just the swamp dweller, but a presence that's been guiding and testing us." With this new knowledge, we gained a deeper appreciation for the deep woods. We realized that our journey was not just about uncovering mysteries, but also about forming a connection with the land and its guardians. We continued our explorations with renewed vigor, always mindful of the respect and reverence the forest deserved. Years later, our guidebook became a staple for adventurers and paranormal enthusiasts alike. It was continuously updated with new information and stories, reflecting the ever-evolving understanding of the deep woods. We formed a close-knit community of explorers who shared a bond forged through their encounters with the unknown. As I look back on our journey, I'm filled with gratitude for the experiences and the people we've met along the way. The deep woods have become a part of who we are, a testament to our resilience and curiosity. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to American Pulse and Paranormal for more chilling tales. Hit the bell icon to get notified of our next adventure. Stay safe, and see you in the next video.